To the Tuga, the Everything Portuguese Soccer podcast. I'm Kevin, that's Christian, that's Mitch. It is everyone's favorite Portuguese soccer podcast by the fans for the fans. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we have a lot to get to. It has been a very busy few weeks in the Portuguese Soccer League. So why don't we begin with the Liga de Portugal? And right now, boys, none of us are Porto fans, which means there's a lot of disappointment here in the room because it looks like the FC Porto is in cruise control, ready to be crowned champions of Portugal once again. I mean, anything can happen, but things aren't looking good in that aspect. I guess before we get into specifics, I know there was the Porto Sporting game not too long ago. I mean, what kind of went wrong? Instead, let's focus on what went wrong for Benfica and Sporting this year that allowed Porto to be in this situation.
Well, first off, Porto is rightfully in first place. I'm going to start off by saying that they've been playing the best football consistently this year so far. So take nothing away from them. They're rightfully in first place. But that being said, also Benfica went through a lot too, right? They have a different president. They fired their coach mid-season, so they're still, trying to find their identity and rebuilding. And then Sporting, this is the first time. Well, not the first time, but we're going through a lot of adversity, and you know what? This is going to grow our team. This is what good solid teams that are consistent. This is where they grow and they build off of. We're suffering a lot of injuries. We're rotating a lot of players. COVID went through our locker room. I mean, this is not an excuse. Porto's in first place, rightfully so. But yeah, we're just we got beat down, and we're finding it tough to go back up again for sure.
I think for Sporting, I think one of the biggest things has just been the absence of a really solid, consistent striker for you guys.
Yes.
Who's putting the ball in the back of the net. Paulinho is so streaky and he's so inconsistent.
Yeah.
And and if you want to win the league, you need to have that pivotal kind of piece. And last year, I think you guys not got lucky, but you guys had Pot who was scoring at will almost. Like he was just and that system was just operating so smoothly for you guys. Whereas this year, I think you're just up against the Porto team that's on another fucking level. Like the way they've been playing this year is.
Yeah. So are we at the point, though? I mean, like taking a look at the standings right now, I mean, assuming Porto wins today, then they'll be, 8 points up on Sporting?
Yeah.
Then if Benfica wins, they'll be 4 points back of Sporting. So, I mean, to me, taking a look at, because really everyone only cares about the top 5 positions because that's where Europe ends up going in. Gil Vicente, Braga, they're locked in spots 4 and 5. They may rotate, doesn't really matter because both of those positions end up going same place. Top 2, though, is where everything matters, right? So Benfica at Sporting right now, it seems like that's the big battle now. Who's going to be finishing in second place? Does Benfica have enough to catch up to Sporting?
I'm gonna say probably not.
You heard it here first.
I think my mic's a little messed up. Did you say probably not?
I'm bringing this full screen so we can hear Mitch say that he had to take a drink of water. He couldn't believe it. He threw up a little in his mouth.
Everything good with the audio there? I don't know.
Man, I've been so disappointed with Benfica this year. There's been so many things. We're really inconsistent right now. Trying to find our identity with this new coach. The performances have been subpar at best. I mean, they've just been lackluster. The team just can't figure it out. It's tough, man. I mean, anything can happen, obviously. But I think Sporting is at this point it really comes down to consistency, and Sporting has just been a more consistent team than Benfica. Even when Sporting hasn't gotten the results, they've played well. Like yesterday's game against Marítimo, they did not deserve to tie that game.
No.
Pedro Porro
hit the bar and the post.
The bar and the post. Like, I mean, it was just unlucky. They played well. They didn't. I don't think they deserved the tie against Marítimo. Whereas Benfica's results, they played like shit. When they've drawn or lost, they've played poorly. In some games they've won and played really poorly. Like they just have not found that groove. And then they'll go into the Champions League against Ajax and draw. And they played so well in the second half against Ajax. So they're super inconsistent right now. They just can't find that groove and that form that's going to get them to be able to string together some good results that puts them in a good position. Again, anything can happen. There's still lots of league to be played. If they're able to find some consistent form and they're able to start stringing some wins together and the team starts growing in confidence, man, it could very well happen. But if you can still ask to play Sporting, I mean, it can happen. But right now, it's to be a Benfica fan with a whole lot of optimism in terms of us getting into second or even first place. It's tough.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, given everything that happened up until this point, things could change, like Mitch said. But up until right now, I think as much as how hard it is for you to admit, I think Portugal or Sporting and Porto are the two best teams in Portugal right now. Benfica, this is the thing. From an outsider looking in, it must be so frustrating to be a Benfica fan. You guys go and beat Braga, what was it, 7-0 or 6-0? One game, and then things are flying high. Next time you guys drop points to, Estoril or another team and you guys look very lackluster. You watch them, they're like, they're just not consistent, like you said. So it's really frustrating. Anything can happen, but I think, like you said, you touched base on it, and it's Sporting is a little bit more consistent team. I would say if you're doing statistics or if you're to guess, you're a bet man, I'd say it's Porto 1, Sporting 2. But like you said, anything can happen. Like this is up until this point, anything can happen to the rest of the season. So.
Well, and I think the issue there too, though, is Sporting can beat themselves here. I mean, a 1-1 draw against Marítimo, like, come on, boys, what are you doing? And it's you start dropping those points, right? A draw here, a draw there, right? You slip up against Benfica, suddenly Sporting is in a fight just to get back into Europe, into the Champions League directly. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I think that, I'll be honest, when it comes to Benfica, I was writing them off. I think a lot of people have. But then they go and turn around and pull out a pretty good performance against Ajax in Champions League this week, right? And Ajax is no pushover, although I believe they lost today. But still, I mean, Benfica certainly has the quality and the talent to be able to, overcome Sporting here, especially if Sporting continues to beat themselves. So it'll be really interesting to see what ends up happening. Now, for Sporting to get into this situation, they ran up against it with Porto. It was a wild game. Why don't you guys tell us what happened?
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to use the sellout excuse about the ref. I think people use it all the time, and it sort of gets wishy-washy. But I think even Mitch can agree, or outsiders looking in can agree that the reffing in that game was brutal. We started that game 2-0 up. Porto was pressing, and it just fell right into the way Sporting loves to play. We play the best when people are attacking us. They open up spaces, and we hit them on the counterattack. Our formation, our whole team is literally meant for that. We play with 3 center backs, with the wing backs going up. It's just perfect for counterattack. So we had that game under control. If you're just looking at the stats, you might not agree with me, but if anybody that watched the game, you can tell that Sporting was just in control. We're up 2-0 right away. Porto came towards the end of that half and made it 2-1. Beautiful goal from Fab Vieira. He's on fire right now. What a player. That guy's a future star right there. But yeah, going into at the end of the first half, Sporting Istas, and we were really confident. We had that game under control. But then second half comes. And Kovac, I believe it was 2 or 3 minutes into the second half, gets his second yellow. And man, Pino, that referee, did not have any control of the game. He's, they say he's an up-and-coming referee. Maybe he is, but I feel like that game for him, playing in the Stade de Dragão, with all those people yelling, and after every tackle, everybody's just on top of him. I feel like it got to him because Kawach got his his red card. Maybe hit the second yellow.
The second yellow
You can
was
give him a yellow,
justified,
but the
after
first one, Taremi literally jumped on him, fouled him, stepped on his foot, span off of him, and he got a yellow card for that. And that ended up getting him the red card, and it changed the game. I mean, Porto could have easily tied it. They're a great team. They have high attacking offense, but let's call it how it is. That changed the game. We went from a back and forth affair, a very, very amazing, entertaining game, two great teams, to it destroying the game. And, it sort of just paved the way for the rest of the game. Porto attacked. We did pretty well with 10 men trying to neutralize it. Favi Vieira pulls another amazing play on the wing, made something out of nothing. And Taremi, scored a header, a beautiful header. And, that was pretty much how it went for the rest of the game. And then towards the end of the game, because one team's fighting and pushing, another team's doing everything they can not to get scored on, things got more intense and flared up. And then towards the end of the game, I mean, you guys all saw what happened. They started going at each other. But you know what? Let's call it how it is. That usually happens in big derby games. There's a little bit of pushing and shoving. But one thing that is not common is the workers and fans in the stadium hitting players. I feel like, other stuff we've seen before, but when you have people that work in the stadium punching players, I think that's a little bit too far.
Well, and to Rich Ferreira joining in, thanks for tuning in, by the way. He makes the keeps it simple. What a point. It was a disgrace and it was a shame to the league, 100%. And that's the stuff that needs to get taken care of and watched, because that's just uncalled for.
I just wanted to add one more thing before you give your take. That's taking nothing away from Porto. What the refs did and all that stuff, Porto is a great team. I'm just saying that ref sort of paved the way for how the rest of the game went.
Yeah. So I think it goes like that. That show at the end of the game, I think, kind of goes and just shows the kind of the climate that's been created around Portuguese football and the league over the last few years. There's always been that rivalry, but I think the media in Portugal, specifically, channels like CMTV, and the way that they constantly pit one against the other and pick on these little nitpicky things to rile up the fans to a level of hatred almost, and it's almost unhealthy. And we've all seen the CMTV talk shows and the way that even the people on the talk shows are going at it and going after one another, and it just creates this climate of really divisive hatred between the teams to an unhealthy level. The rivalries are good, and I say that because I witnessed it. I look at my my father-in-law and the way that he comes into our house sometimes talking, did you see CMTV and that this and this, and it's like the way he's talking, he's got this hatred towards either Benfica or Sporting, because he's a big Porto fan, and I think that has aided in it, and there's a lot of other things that have aided in it as well. But there's this unhealthy climate around the Portuguese league, and it has to do with a lot about how the teams are allowed to react after these games as well on social media. There was a situation the other day, where, and we've talked about this all the time, a heavy-handed approach that leagues like the EPL take when either a player or a coach speaks out about a referee. The fines that come down on teams, the suspensions that come down on teams, you cannot do that. And the EPL recognizes that if you allow players and coaches to just go Wild West and badmouth and say whatever they want against referees, you're going to create a very hostile environment, and you're going to put undue pressure on referees, and they're going to end up making bad mistakes that lead to what happened at the end of the game. So I think it's a kind of a two-pronged thing. It's number one, it's the league, the failure of the league to clamp down on the way that teams, and I'm going to call Porto out because I think they're the worst of the three in terms of how they react to games and constantly calling out referees for doing this and doing that, because they really put a ton of pressure on these referees. There's been reports in Portugal of referees having their doors of their homes graffitied on that they're going to be killed because of performances in games. You can't have that. That puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on these referees. And to your point, the already the pressure in the stadium with the fans yelling and everything, I mean, that's just part of it. But when you have that outside pressure, that other outside pressure, it makes their job that much harder. And it just creates this very, very hostile climate. And I think what we saw at the end of the game was just the culmination of all of these things coming to a boil. And it just popped off. And when you see fans running down there to try to actually physically harm players, man, you can't have that. And I think Port needs to take responsibility for the way that they communicate, the way that they that environment and that climate that they almost help to harness, the way that they communicate. And it's that very rough, that very take no shit from nobody, and do whatever it takes to protect your team. And it's all fine and dandy until you start to see crap like that. And I think Port first and foremost needs to take responsibility for the way that they communicate and their contribution to that kind of thing, because we've seen it. This is not the first year that we've seen these type of things from Port.
No, for sure, especially with the coach. But
I was just going to say, and that's where Portuguese leadership, the heads of each team, they all need to kind of come together on a united front and say this is not acceptable, and they need to start acting professional themselves. It starts at the top, and that's what we need to see.
Yeah, and like Mitch hit the nail on the head. In my personal opinion, it has to start from the top down. Like, I watched the EPL yesterday, and I have to filter out my brain because I have the Portuguese league brain.
Yeah.
Well, that's a foul. That's blah, 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 and that's blah, blah, blah. But in the EPL, for the most part, there's always the odd game. But for the most part, they let him play. In the Portuguese league, I think that game against Sporting Porto, you know how much free-flowing soccer there was? 33 minutes. And there was 109 minutes of game time with all the extra time. 33 minutes. That doesn't fly in the EPL. Yeah. EPL, they don't whistle all those little touches, those little infractions. I mean, if you nitpick, yeah, it could be a foul, but they let it go. Yeah. And even with the penalty shot, I know last year was a little bit different, but this year, if you watch the EPL, they don't call little cheeky penalties. Even if it's a penalty and they notice the player dived a little bit, they don't call it. And I feel like to iron out all that stuff and all the little nitpicking and all the attacks on the referee is not call every little thing. You set a precedence, and like you said with the fines, heavy-handed approach, and that's the way you iron this out. Because Porto, let's take nothing away from them. They deserve where they are. They're playing really good. They have some of the best players in the league. Nobody's denying that. But this is what happens when you let a team get away with so much. It becomes part of their culture. This is what Porto does. And in a way, it does start from the top, because you let this stuff go. It's just like anything else in this world. You give people an inch, they take as much as they possibly can until you nip it. And
it goes to, for example, so we're talking about a culture that's been, how long has Pinto Costa been at the helm? 30 years?
Yeah.
30 years?
30, 40 years.
30, 40 years. I mean, you're talking about a man who's in himself has, a ton of controversy behind him with some of the things that he's been involved in. But you look at Varandas, the president of Sporting, the comments that he made after the game. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was something along the lines of this is a result of
40 years of
Pinto Costa at Porto. This is the culture that he's created in his team. The reaction of Porto after those comments Vitor Bahia and other high level, people from Porto surrounded Varandas. There's the rumor that they took his phone. I mean, there's all of this that.
That's not a rumor. They did. I listened to Rayo Shish, which is like a sporting commentator, like whatever. That's like a little analysis, little pod that they do after. And the guy that was next to Varandas, he said that they literally stole his phone and they smacked his wallet out of his hand. So that is a fact.
Like, I mean, we're not talking about fans. Like, these are the presidents of the club, man, getting into altercations like this. And all because Varandas came out and said this is a result of, and he's not wrong. He's talking about exactly what we're talking about. It's this culture that under Pinto Costa, Porto has kind of harnessed over the years. And it's like I say, it's rivalry is one thing, but it's unhealthy when it starts to create situations like this. And like Kev said, it starts at the top. It starts, with the leadership and the president. And I think, at some point, these guys have to be taken to task. And I think at this point, this man has so much influence that, the league can't do anything. But we need a change in Portuguese football, man. Like, we need a change. And this old guard and this old style of very, mafia-esque type, leadership there, where there's a lot of influence on the referees and threats and all this stuff. It's gotta go.
And that's all the teams, right? Not just Porto, but they're the main ones.
Yeah, it's been 40 years of Pinto da Costa with FC Porto. For them themselves, it's time for change. I mean, he's 84 years old. The game has changed. They'd be better off looking for someone new, someone with fresh ideas, someone that can, bring the club and help be a leader for the league and bring it into, the 2020s, And
I would have supported Vitor Bahia, because I think he's probably being primed to take over as the next president, either him or somebody like André Villas-Boas. I know Villas-Boas has talked about having aspirations of doing that role, but after what I saw Bahia did with Varandas, like, come on, man, like, that's not what we need.
Yeah.
I'd love to see somebody like Rui Costa at the helm of Benfica, Vitor Bahia at the helm of Porto, guys who have a mutual respect, former club legends, take these teams into a new era. But man, we got to get past this craziness, man.
And that being said, we don't want to just pick on Porto. We're just specifically talking about this situation because of what happened after the game. So this could have been Sporting that done this, or Benfica, and maybe
the big three are all have blame in the way the Portuguese league is acting. Now, moving along, FC Porto, we've been talking a lot about them. Sporting, we've been talking about. They've got a big game coming up this week. It is the Taça de Portugal, the semifinal. May as well call it the final. The other semifinal is Tondela versus Mafra. So, I mean, really, like, Porto Sporting, the semifinal. This is for the Taça de Portugal. 2 legs. Starts at the Estádio José Alvalade, and that is on Wednesday. Sporting, Porto, who do we got?
I think Porto's got the league, and I would, ideally look like just looking at it, I think Sporting can take this one. Sporting, they match well against Porto. In every club competition that's been around lately in the last years, we've usually beat Porto. A lot of the times in the shootout, I'm not saying we were the better team every time, but we somehow pulled a result against them. And I think Sporting is going to try to aim for 3 out of 4 titles this year. They already got the Super Taça, they got Taça Liga, they get the Taça de Portugal. I think that's not a bad season. Obviously, I'd take the Campeonato over those 3 any day. The Campeonato is the most important, but I feel like if we knock them out, that's not a bad season.
Well, and I think the interesting thing too is so FC Porto, I mean, they're trying to fight for the Liga de Portugal right now, which they seem to be in the driver's seat. They're also got Europa League round of 16 coming up. Sporting, and we'll talk about this in a sec, they're out of Champions League. There's no way they're going to come back. I mean, I hope I eat my words, but
you're not
they're
going to put a bet on that? Six
You know-
6-0.
you know what?
on,
Hey,
man.
listen. The Toronto Maple Leafs were up 7-2 yesterday after 2 periods against Detroit, and then at one point they were only up 8-6, and they ended up winning 10-7. So, I mean, anything can happen in sports, but no, Sporting is out right now. Sporting, realistically, this is all they've got left to look forward to. That and holding on to that second spot and holding off Benfica. So I do think from that perspective, Sporting has a lot more incentive in this game. The other interesting thing is Sporting and Porto. They both have 17 Taça de Portugal titles. So whomever ends up winning, because again, unless Tondela or Mafra end up playing the upset of the century here, whomever ends up winning this will end up being in sole possession of second place behind Benfica, who have 26. So I'm going to go with because of the incentive stuff going on, I'm going to say Sporting ends up winning it.
I got to be the tiebreaker. Port is going to take it, and I think Port's going to take it because I just think that they're right now they're playing better than Sporting. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. Sporting's out, or Pot is going to be out for the next few games, 1 to 2 weeks. So I believe he misses this game, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that's a huge loss for you guys. So I'm just going to say Port.
Yeah, well, let's also go back to the fact that earlier in the show, in case you're just tuning in and missed us, that Mitch admitted that Sporting is Benfica. So
screenshot
that. We will keep this up for as long as we need to, just so everyone can remember that and focus on that. But let's talk Champions League and Europe. It was a very interesting week. As I just alluded to earlier, Sporting pretty much done with a 5-0 rubbing at the hands of Manchester City. We knew they were going to be in tough against Man City, but even that's a little humiliating. So hopefully they'll be able to, earn back a little pride and maybe put in a goal or two just to kind of make it look a little decent on paper. But that was pretty disastrous. But the one game that I was really excited about the results for, Benfica Ajax. I thought for sure Ajax was going to trounce Benfica. You talk about a 5-0 scoreline. That's kind of what I was thinking with Ajax, simply because they are such a good team right now, and they've been playing well. To draw 2-2, pretty interesting to say the least. Boys, what happened this week in Champions League?
Well, I'll start with Benfica. I didn't watch the game live, but I rewatched it at night, and the first half we struggled a little bit, but I think after going down, I think the coach threw caution against the wind and said, "Fuck it, let's just go for it." And we came out in the second half, and we were just attacking at will, and it was something we haven't seen Benfica do in a little while. And it was nice to see, man. And we were just going for it. Rafa had a great game, man. Like, Rafa was creating chances left, right, and center. Like, he was playing really well. I love the way Gonçalo Ramos played. Man, everyone was playing really well. The whole team played really, really well. And that's the performance, and that's the potential that they have. It's finding that vein of consistency that they have to try and tap into. But they played very well, man. I was very proud of the way they played.
From an outsider looking in, that just tells me there's a lot wrong with Benfica, because I don't feel like they get up for those smaller league games. Like they got up for the Ajax. I think they woke up. We're playing Ajax. Let's play good, because there's a lot of quality.
That's a really good point, man. Yeah.
And I feel like that's if you get the right coach and the right person in that locker room, Benfica can be a great team. They have great players. You look at their team, and they have Vertonghen. They have Ultimate. These are like Premier League defensemen. I'm not saying they're at their prime now, but a few years back, they were some of the top defensemen in the world. You have a guy like Rafa. The only thing that separates Rafa from Benfica or being on a massive team is just his finishing. Yeah. If that guy had a little bit more finishing, this guy is a really, really, really good player. Yeah. Everton Cebolinha, being a Benfica fan, that must be the most frustrating player to watch. Yeah. Sometimes you see brinks of of genius, and he scores really nice goals. Other times he's back there. You have a guy like Darwin. I think he's a huge prospect, huge player for the future. I think he's going to end up in a big team. Again, inconsistent. Sometimes he's one of the best players in the Premier League, in the Primera Liga. Other time, oh my God, Christian admits Benfica is a good team. There we go. Who's on Troll Patrol? Anyways, all I'm trying to say is they have good pieces, good players on that team. They're just inconsistent, man. Sometimes they'll play great like Ajax. In the second half, man, they were pushing Ajax.
Yeah, they were the better team.
They were the better team in the second half. First half was Ajax. I mean, I didn't watch it so in depth. I don't know if you've seen my setup. I had the main TV. Yeah. My main TV was with Man United, and I had a little laptop set up on the side. But yeah, like you said, Ajax won first half. Benfica second half. They look great. Yeah. So
and I think it leaves the second leg. It's wide open.
Yeah,
I really do.
Even without Rafa and some big pieces. It's gonna be a little tough, but I mean, anything can happen. So
Rich with a great comment there. I just want to say, shuffleboard's a lot of fun. You don't have to be at an orphanage home to play shuffleboard.
Like a bad time.
To Ricky's point, that is one of the big challenges with Benfica is the lack of pace at the back, especially with those two. They're both well into their 30s. I'd like to see Muratu get a little bit more playing time. I actually like Muratu, but
the thing is, people look at defense and they just solely put the blame on the center backs. But a lot of it's team defense. Look at Kovac. Kovac isn't fast. Yeah. He's very slow. Yeah. He's old. But if you have a good structure around them, it helps the defense. I think if you guys got a really good CDM, almost like a Palhinha, it would change your whole team. Sometimes it's not just your center back. Well, I mean, they are older. Take nothing away from that. Sure. And they are past their prime. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of the times when you look at defense, if you put them in vulnerable situations, they're going to look bad.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right there. It's not just the two of them. There's multiple times where Grimaldo, and I love Grimaldo. Grimaldo is a great left back, but his defensive abilities are shit. He cannot defend very well. He gets beat constantly on that left wing. I think it's as strong as he is going forward. He as much of he's a threat going forward. He's just as much of a liability defending because he constantly gets beat. So that's kind of a double-edged sword for us. And on the right back, I think between Gilberto and Lázaro, they're trying to figure out who's that number one spot. As long as André Almeida doesn't play, I think we're in good shape. But between the two of them, again, both very attack-minded, right back. So it's tough because when you have that very attack-minded right or left back, the defending is always suspect, and that's something I think that's burnt Benfica many times. And then the lack of a really I like Julian Weigl, but man, and he has these little lapses in his game. He's very, very good, but he has these little mental lapses sometimes that he just makes these just ridiculously infant mistakes, man, that cost us goals sometimes. It's just these little mental lapses. He's either not tracking back, he's not tracking his man, he's caught ball watching a little bit. For the most part, he's very good, but he's on multiple occasions. So to your point, the team defending, he's been just caught not doing his job on the field, off the ball, that off the ball work where you got to track back. You got to make sure you're aware of where you are, who you're picking up. And that's burnt us a few times. So it's a culmination of a bunch of different things. It's not just Vertonghen and Otamendi.
I think one thing we need to look forward to this week, next couple weeks here is, so again, Sporting, we're going to take them out of the equation. They're going to lose to Manchester City. They'll be out of Champions League for sure. Benfica obviously still has a chance against Ajax. They have a very good chance against Ajax right now to aggregate. Remember, there's no more away goal rules, so we're literally going to just scores here. So that's definitely a nice advantage as well. FC Porto and Braga both advanced to the Europa League round of 16. Porto's got Lyon, and Braga has Monaco. here's the interesting thing with all of this. Portugal and France are right there next to each other when it comes to the UEFA coefficients. This is actually a very big couple weeks here for Portugal when it comes to Europe. Will we be able to count on Porto, Braga, and Benfica?
I think Benfica's going to be tough. They always have a chance. Actually, if you remember the earlier podcast, I was the one that actually gave Benfica a bigger chance to go through than even Mitch did.
100%.
But, let's call it how it is, especially now with Benfica without Rafa. I know there are a couple other guys. Do you remember who it is? I know Rafa's one of them. Whatever. It's a couple big, let's call it a couple big players, and they're going into Ajax. It's going to be a tough game. But
I'll say this: Ajax lost today to Go Ahead Eagles. What a weird team name. And this is a team that is that was maybe 5-6 points above the relegation zone. So Ajax is struggling a little bit now. So they might be ripe for the picking for Benfica.
And the team that they lost to is Go Ahead Eagles, right?
Go Ahead Eagles.
Yeah.
Hey.
Anyways, let's not talk. I'm talking too much about Benfica today. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's in this coffee. But anyways, I still think Ajax is the favorite. I think even the most diehard Benfica fan would say that. But do they have a chance? Yes, they have a really good chance. But out of the three Portuguese teams, I think they have the least chance to go through. I mean, anything can happen, but I think Porto is going to beat Lyon. I believe. Didn't you guys play Lyon in the preseason? You don't want to look too much into preseason, but both Sporting and Benfica, made them. They didn't look that good of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Again, preseason, but I think Porto is the favorite in that game. Braga, you never know what you're going to get with Braga, but yeah, out of the three, I think Benfica is the least likely.
What a game, by the way. Did you watch the Braga?
Yeah. Again, and then did you see the meme where it was like Sheriff beat Real Madrid, and then Braga beat Sheriff, so then Braga is better than Real Madrid. So I don't know what you want to look into that, but
what a game though.
It was a great game.
Really good game. Ricardo Horta, man. I'm telling you, Fernando Santos, better be watching, man. That kid deserves to be on the seleção. He is playing so well right now.
So I'm a little scared though, because have you seen William lately? He's nutmegging guys.
William.
And Danilo.
How about Danilo, man?
Danilo's the second top goal scorer.
I posted something on our group chat yesterday, jokingly. I said, who needs Cristiano Ronaldo? We got Danilo, man. Danilo is the second top goal scorer at PSG. He's outscoring Lionel Messi, Neymar, Icardi, Di Maria. Come on, man.
He's up for Ballon d'Or, I guess. So don't be surprised if we see Danilo and William up front.
We're less than a month away from the World Cup qualifying playoffs, Portugal, Turkey, and then the winner to play North Macedonia or Italy. We'll have a lot more to talk about that in the coming weeks. We're running up against it here with time, guys. But just really quick, you kind of mentioned who Fernando Santos should be kind of looking for. So just let's leave a little bit of food for thought here. Just one kind of thought or how are you feeling just going into this? And I'll get it started. I was feeling very defeated a few months ago. I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful now, and maybe that's just because we're getting closer to the game, so it's the excitement and the nerves that are there. I still think Portugal is going to be up against it. I think it'll be very difficult. I still have a little bit of hope. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is really going to have to step it up big time here. The one question that I will leave for you, you don't have to answer today, we can talk about it maybe next week, is who do you look for in net? And I say that just because Zessa, man, oh man, do you start giving him a look? Or are you just saying, hey, listen, we're just going to end this with the team that we got us here, and then let's look ahead, and he's part of the future looking ahead to Euro 2024. So again, something to think about. I asked for both of you guys' thoughts as we end this podcast.
I'm always a big Diogo Costa fan. Jessa, he is playing in a better league. I think any one of those two for me would get the pick over Rui Patrice. I love Rui Patrice. Well, love is a strong word after what happened, but I appreciate Rui Patrice. I've always backed him forever. He's an amazing goalie. I just feel like it's might be time for another goalie to step in there. And I think either Jessa now and Diogo Costa later, but I think no matter what, Diogo Costa is going to be the future goalie for Portugal. That's just my opinion. And again, not talking too much about Portugal because, maybe the next podcast we'll dive more into it. But a lot of Portuguese players are stepping up right now for their teams, and it's beautiful to watch. Yeah, Bernardo Silva people are saying he's one of the best players in the Premier League, if not the best right now. You have, Diogo Costa or Jota playing really good. We had Andre Silva scoring right now. We have so many players. Ruben Dias, unreal. Cancelo, they're saying he's the best left back in the world. I mean, I could keep
Celtics Jota.
I could keep talking about all these players playing so well for their teams, and it's lining up perfectly for the qualification games. Whether they can show that in the qualification games under Fernando Santos, again, we'll leave that for another time. Is one thing, but from the outside looking in, they do look very dangerous.
Yeah,
Mitch.
No, Fernando Santos can't be sleeping very well right now. He's going to have some headaches. The one thing I will say is based on right now, Ronaldo can't start.
Ooh.
Wow.
Good for you.
We'll leave this for the next
stage. You've set the stage for the next podcast where Christian is his mind will blow and he's just going to lose it on Mitch. I'm surprised he didn't throw his coffee in his face right now and walked off. We are definitely in for a great conversation. Who should start in net? Who should start for Portugal? What kind of players are in form? Is this the end of the Ronaldo generation with the Portuguese national team? There's so much to get to. We're less than a month away. Portugal, Turkey, with a trip to Qatar on the line. Boys, any final thoughts before we wrap it up quickly? Nothing. You're good.
Man. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Benfica.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, Christian, breaking. I'm typing this in live, and normally I don't like doing this while I'm on here. Christian says, "Let's go Benfica," and we are going to bring this up.
I didn't say where though. I said go home.
Listen,
let's go home.
Doesn't matter.
Benfica.
Christian officially loves Benfica. He's been eyeing that jersey behind him for like all year that we've been doing this podcast. I can't wait to see Christian wear that Benfica jersey.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's going to be what a ride. For Christian, Mitch, I'm Kevin. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back at it again shortly. Tuga, the Portuguese soccer podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one, everyone.
Take care, guys.